At some point, someone combined 4 different loans into one account with different interest rates.
Yikes.
And I told him, I need your full payment history so that I can restructure these loans and do the interest and the payments.
He did his own debt consolidation on his own. Everybody, welcome to this episode of Mission Control. This is your host, Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch brands. And we're very excited to have in studio today a woman that helps small businesses get their numbers in order. Please help me welcome the one and only Vicar Centeno, owner of Vixen Bookkeeping Services. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yes, Vicar Centeno.
Centeno.
Yes. The name is one that I'm practicing to say properly because it's very unique. Tell us a little bit about how this name came to be.
So the name is actually, it means rye in Spanish.
Centeno.
And centeno. So in Spanish, you would say pan de centeno, which is bread of rye bread. And so it comes from Spain. And actually, if you look up Marianela and other Spanish old works, the name will come up in the works because they were known as an intellectual family back in the day. It's a rare name in Spain and in Latin America. So it's a Spanish descent, and that's it's centeno. It means rye,
and
but
one of the things
but it's very historical. It's very historical.
And I've been exploring ancestry, so this is all like very fresh and relevant to me because I've been doing paintings on my ancestry, but your ancestry is also being from the Caribbean. You've got the Spanish, the Taino, the African descent.
Definitely. So my grandfathers from my father's side, which is the Centeno side, came straight from Spain, and they married or got with women. They didn't necessarily marry, but they got with women from Taino and African descent. So I've got the 3 mixes there. And then the same thing happened on my mother's side, the Infanzon. Some Puerto Ricans may recognize the last name from Almacenes Infanzon in Puerto Rico. It was my great-grandfather who owned it. It was kind of like a Walmart.
Store. Yeah, like a Walmart.
It was like a Walmart back in the day.
Department store.
And the building still stands in Puerto Rico. Now
what part of Puerto Rico?
It's in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Okay. Yep.
The building is still standing. So my family is looking into trying to see how they can recover the building. So he came and he again got married with a woman of Taino and African descent. And
well, you look very indigenous. Like you have that indigenous. Look.
I guess the indigenous genes were more strong. Than the Spanish and the African.
You have a twin.
I do. I have an identical twin. I do. Her name is Vicar Centeno. She's a teacher in Albany, New York.
Shout out to her.
Yes, shout out to her.
Does she rock the short haircut? Like, are you guys still
No, she has long hair.
Oh, okay.
She has long hair. We looked more alike when we were younger. Now with the weight fluctuations and haircuts and things, we don't look as the same. But if we were to be the same weight and the same hairstyle, we would look identical.
Do you feel each other's pain?
No. So I get asked that question a lot. We don't feel each other's pain, but when one of us is going through something, we do have a sense.
Okay.
And we call each other and we're just like, hey, what's going on?
Like
something's going. I don't know what it is exactly, but I do call her and she calls me and we talk about it and we figure it out.
Very creative way that your parents came up with these names too. You want to tell us about that?
So my dad is Vicar Centeno, who's actually like a very well-known Christian evangelist and apostle and preacher, and He has doctorates galore in theology and divinity. And so he came up with the idea when he was married to my mom of naming us with both names. So my name is Vicar, which is Victor and Carmen, which is the first part of my mother's first name. And then Miravic is Mireja, which is the first part of my mother's middle name mixed with Victor at the end because she was the second born. So he kind of did a little trick with the firstborn, secondborn kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Very unique, but meaningful.
Yes, very meaningful. I carry my mom and my dad everywhere I go in my name.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now, we got to talk about this challenge that a lot of small businesses have as we get into Vicar's expertise here, but many small businesses, especially I think from a cultural standpoint, the more underserved or the more first gen, they know cash. They know cash, but and I can speak from experience. My dad struggled with understanding taxes and that he had to pay them. And would let them stack, and there are all the different types of taxes that small businesses have to deal with, and there are a lot. And so I think because of him, I made sure to begin early with the right habits. What are some of the things you see that hurt small businesses because they're just not keeping good books?
Just not keeping them at all. Just being so overwhelmed by the task at hand. And worrying about having the cash flow to pay for someone to do it, that they just abandon it. And then 5 years down the line, they're getting a nice little letter from the IRS.
Oh, yeah.
They're getting audited. They're having to get tax litigators. And in the end, they end up spending more money than what they would have spent to begin with just to keep the books clean.
Right. Can imagine, because just as an employee, you see the government take their cut, which hurts. When you look at it, you almost got to close your eyes and not see that literally they're getting a big chunk of it. But then from a business owner standpoint, there's so many taxes that we pay: sales, property, unemployment. I mean, it is difficult, I can imagine, to navigate. And
there's also tax deductions too. So if you do your books well, the hardship or the struggle won't be as hard. You just got to know how to categorize those transactions correctly and how to get the right tax deductions and get the right tax preparer.
Right. Financial literacy is key, because I think if you think about it, the businesses are the ones that are in the lawmakers' pockets, so they're making sure that their laws passed to their advantage. And so I think it's just educating the small business owner that, okay, you might be small, but you've got to start these habits, because ultimately there are things designed to have some tax breaks for having a business. Yeah,
and definitely. One of the hardest things that I have to deal with as a bookkeeper, and one of the hardest habits to leave as a small business owner, is mixing your personal transactions with your business transactions. That makes a mess out of the books, and that makes it more costly to run the books, because the more time I spend categorizing your personal transactions, which I shouldn't have to be doing, the more I'm going to charge you.
Step one, have a separate bank account.
Yes, have a separate bank account for everything. Yeah. Like if you're going to have a food truck and you're going to have, multiple food trucks, and you want to see the income from each different food truck, we separate by different bank accounts and different categorized account, and for revenue, all of that. If you're a therapist and you want to see how much you're getting from each insurance company, different categories for revenue for each insurance company that pays you, things like that. Yeah,
and it's just also the first gen. It's just when you're the pioneer in your family starting out, trying to start something, you're I remember being in college and doing caricatures to make extra money in college. That was one of the first gigs I had, and I would charge $10 to draw a picture. And I remember having to go down to, back then I think it was called Artorama. Jerry's Artorama. Jerry's Artorama. So I would go down to Norwalk to get the markers and the pads, and it was there this was completely on my own. I noticed that other artists that were buying materials would write their name and tax ID number into this book. Like they literally had a notebook on the counter. Now I'm going back 30 something years. And then they didn't have to pay taxes on the supplies that they bought. And I was just kind of like curious, like, how do you get this? You know, what is this? What are they doing? Why are they not paying taxes and I'm paying taxes? I'm talking about sales tax. But it was at that moment that I had to ask a question, and the woman behind the counter said, oh, yeah, you need to get your own sales and use tax ID number. And then I just kind of figured out where to go, and I went and got it. But this was back in 1992. You know, that I got my first like sales and use tax ID number.
It's not just a sales and use tax ID number, it's giving them a sales and use tax certificate so that they have you on file.
Exactly.
Because if the vendor doesn't know that you are a licensed, you know, sales and use tax vendor, then they're not going to give you that tax discount.
Exactly. And then the idea being that I don't know if there's a term for it, but you can't tax a consumer twice. So it's like if I'm going to charge someone tax on what I'm creating with these supplies, the state can't tax me for the supplies as well, right?
Exactly.
Is it something to that effect?
Yeah, definitely. It is.
Because that applies to every other industry, right? Food.
Yeah, so food, every industry has that. So, and I tell that to all my clients because they think that just because they registered with the state as, you know, and got their sales and use tax account number, that they're automatically going to get those tax reliefs. And they don't. You have to go out and send out that certificate to each vendor that you have. And yeah, you can't get taxed twice. And then, you know, especially like you're getting taxed twice because you're paying the taxes and then you're paying the sales use tax. So that's where it's coming out twice. So it's not the consumer. The consumer's only paying the taxes once, but you as the small business are paying the tax twice.
True. So then there's the aspect of, because I at one point I was paying it annually, and the IRS can kind of determine if they want you to do it annually or quarterly. Right now they put
Monthly.
me back on quarterly. Sometimes it could be monthly, depending on volume, I guess. And then you have to separate it down, whether it's like in-state, out-of-state, nonprofit. Right, there are levels to this.
Yeah, so it's basically non-taxable. What it would be called a nonprofit would be non-taxable. So you would have to basically out of state and in-state and non-taxable are the three different categories that you have. And then you have your deductions, but you have your rental stuff. If you rent equipment to other people, your leases, those you pay taxes on as well. And you have to, you know, list the gross on that as well.
And what do you think about Connecticut in general? Do you think it's business friendly with all of the taxes we have? Because I know like they've been laws that have been passed where like our services, like digital services, get taxed at like 1%. And then if you're selling a good, like a printed booklet or something, then that's like 6.35 or something. From a state standpoint, is it really business friendly?
Well, I mean, we all know that Connecticut's high on taxes everywhere. So is it business friendly? There are some regulations in place that are business friendly and help you out, but tax-wise, I see that, you know, it balances out because even though a lot of other counties have lower taxes, a lot of other states have lower taxes. They have county and city taxes as well, which Connecticut doesn't have. So when you add up the taxes, it comes out to about the same, to be honest.
Well, there are two things certain in life. Death and taxes.
Death and taxes.
And how many steps away are you from like being a CPA or being able like licensed to give financial advice? It sounds like the border is like, you know, it's the knowledge base seems similar in knowing like tax codes and kind of being able to steer people in a certain direction, you know.
So a lot of bookkeepers just know straight bookkeeping, and a lot of people, it's just, I've been in the industry for so long that I've learned so much that I can give this knowledge. It's not something that I acquired overnight, something that I went to school, you know, I studied, you know, basic accounting And then I got an internship in high school. And then from there, you know, I just kept doing bookkeeping, and I learned from the accountants. I learned from the CPAs. I learned, you know, it's knowledge that I've acquired throughout the years. It's not something that a normal, or I can say a regular bookkeeper that doesn't have a lot of experience or just does straight bookkeeping will have, you know. But there's a difference because I'm not authorized to do audits, which CPAs can do. And I can't do forensic accounting, which CPAs can do. Things like that. But for the most part, what differentiates a bookkeeper and a CPA or accountant, it's, you know, the reports, the audits. A lot of bookkeepers do tax preparation. A lot of them don't. So it depends on who you're dealing with. But I would, as a business, do my taxes with an accountant versus a tax preparer. And then, you know, we can go into areas like forecasting and budgeting and things like that. A lot of accountants do that. I do forecasting and budgeting, and now I'm taking a class for business strategy because I find that a lot of my clients are coming up to me with questions, and I'm like, I can give you the advice because I have the knowledge, but I want to be certified.
Right.
So, you know, now I'm going to the Harvard School of Business online.
Excellent.
And getting certified in business strategy.
Excellent. And I do want to dive into learning how you're scaling too, because we were having a discussion about you hired your first employee.
I did, yes.
Congratulations.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
So we're going to cut here and come back and hear all about how you started this amazing business.
All right.
When we return.
Perfect.
All right. Well, this episode here is brought to you by the Connecticut Small Business Boost Fund. It gives small business owners access to flexible funding for capital expenditures and working capital and connects them with support services. Small businesses and nonprofits can borrow between $5,000 and $500,000 depending on eligibility and need. And you can spend how you spend the money. It could be equipment, payroll, utilities, supplies, marketing, advertising, all that good stuff. And they're very low interest over a 60 to 72 month term. You can get more information and you can apply at ctsmallbusinessboostfund.org.
We launch brands.
And we're back. Please help me welcome once again Vicar Centeno, owner of Vixen Bookkeeping.
Hi.
I'm practicing. I'm trying. I'm doing it. So, Vicar, tell us your story.
All right. So, like I was starting to say earlier, it all started in high school, you know, and I got this internship with this company doing bookkeeping. It was a nonprofit. And then my father's a pastor in Bridgeport, Connecticut. So as soon as he realized, you know, that I was getting into this field, he partnered me up with the treasurer who was currently doing the bookkeeping for the church. So I was doing 2 nonprofits, which is technically like the hardest part of bookkeeping is nonprofits because they're so strict and, you know.
Because there's a lot of fraud in that space, right?
Yeah,
So
there is. So you have to
So
be
they're
a
so
lot.
highly regulated that it means you have to
Very.
be even more precise.
More precise, very detailed. Every cent has to be accounted for. This thing that you do with other businesses as adjustments and things like that, everything has to be to the cent. Like just adjustments. I wouldn't say they don't exist with nonprofits because they do, but they should be very rare if you're doing it right. But that's how I started out.
And how old were you? You said high school.
I was 16 years old.
Wow.
16 years old. And then, you know, from there I went off to college and I studied sociology. But when I realized that you needed a master's to do anything in sociology, I just said, forget this. I'm going to go to work because I was already working and going to school.
Yeah.
So I just said, I'm just going to keep working. So I kept working and I honed in on my career path, you know, on my skill. At first, I wasn't very good at math. I took math 3 times in college.
Which
algebra.
Math?
Algebra.
Yeah, right. It's like you wonder, like, when am I going to use the Pythagorean theorem in real life?
Yeah, but as
that might be geometry, by the way.
but as you with QuickBooks and Xero and Square and all these different softwares and AI available now, they do the math for you.
I did want to ask about that. Like, how do you see AI coming into the space? Obviously, even as developers, it's interesting seeing it come up as a tool, but how does it shape your industry?
Yeah. Let me get to that question later. Let me finish the first question, which is how did I become a bookkeeper? So basically, I went to college, dropped out, and kept working as a bookkeeper. At one point, I was a bookkeeper and office manager for different small businesses. Throughout my whole career, I've been working for small businesses as a bookkeeper and office manager.
Okay, so you're like Kanye, the college dropout. Why'd you drop out? What happened?
Well, like I said before, I realized that for me to do any work in sociology, any real work, I would need a master's. Yeah. So I shifted, and I was just like, my dad gave me advice. He was like, stick to what you know. Hone in that, and then opportunities will open for you. Hone that skill, master the skill, learn the skill, and opportunities will open for you. And I listened. I took that. I took it to heart. I heeded, and here I am. So sociology wasn't in the books for me. So after that, I kept working, and then I moved back to Puerto Rico as a grown-up. And I had my son. And once I had my son, I took a hiatus. I took a hiatus for 4 or 5 years.
And what was the move to Puerto Rico? Was that?
It was just personal.
You met a guy and took
no.
him out?
No. It was because of a guy. It was to get
I knew it.
It was to get away from a guy.
Oh no.
But
not moving towards one, getting away from one.
Okay, got it. But someone I love still very dearly.
Yeah.
And we're back together.
Okay. Great.
So it didn't work. But yeah, I had my son in Puerto Rico, and then I took a hiatus. And when I saw it was time to go back to the workforce, once Ruben was back in school and everything like that, I was just like, I need a flexible schedule. I need to be able to pick up my son. I need to be able to be there for meetings. I'm a single mother. So I'm the only one, I need to be there. And so I decided to launch my own business where I wouldn't have to work a 9-to-5, where I could just do everything online. And then QuickBooks Online had upgraded tremendously from desktop and all the other softwares that it used to have. And it gave me that flexibility to be able to say, hey, I'm in Canada, but I'm still going to work on your account and run payroll. So this is where AI comes in. This is why I left the question for later. Because a lot of things are being automated now. So I can automate payroll. I can automate bill pays. I can automate, I can even automate transaction categorization by creating rules. It's not 100%. I wouldn't completely 100% rely on AI for bookkeeping, because it makes it very easy to make mistakes, because you see a match and then you just match it without realizing, hey, it's not the same date. It might be the same company, but it's not for the same invoice. So you still have to double check everything, but it does make things a lot easier, and it makes remote work possible, which is what I needed and what I still need at the stage that I am in my life.
Right. And it's not lost on me that your dad is a preacher, and so I'm imagining you were brought up with a strong faith in venturing out. You had to, it's scary, right? So when you decided you're like, okay, I'm going to do my own thing, I think how much did faith play a role, or prayer?
Faith played a big role. My dad was just like, listen, you're good at what you do. just launch yourself. Have faith.
Launch yourself. That's our new tagline. Launch yourself. No.
I mean, that's talk about a leap of faith. That's literally what it is.
I did, but
and where did you come up with the name of the business too?
So Vixen is a mix of, I did what my dad did. Vixen is a mix of my first name and my last name put together. But Vixen also means a female fox, and foxes are smart. So my logo is a little fox, is a little orange fox. And foxes are clever, you know. They're smart and they're cunning, and you know they're good animal. I love foxes. I could talk about foxes.
That's a great metaphor for what you do. Absolutely.
So definitely picked out, you know. So when I came up with the idea, because my dad he's a pastor, so he knows how to run the business, obviously, because he runs a church, but he also has his personal endeavors. And so when I came up to him, I asked him, he was just like, this is a great idea. You know, my dad has done real estate. He's an author. He has a lot of business experience. So when I have a question, I don't necessarily tell him like, oh, this customer or that customer or whatever, but I'll present him a situation. I'm like, what are your thoughts? I pick his brain a little bit because he is
great resource.
Yeah, he is. He's a great resource to have. And he's in his, he's close to 70. And, you know, he's going to kill me for saying that. He's in his 60s still. He's in his 60s still. He's close to 70.
Close to, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm close to 100.
So, yeah.
No, but that's great. I mean, I think, and then your mom, you know, we talked more about your dad, but your mom, what did she do and how did that influence you?
So, to be honest, I didn't talk to my mom for 14 years.
Okay.
So my mom's not the biggest influence. She wanted me to be an esthetician.
Okay.
Or a hairstylist or something like that. But she is very proud of me because my grandmother, her mother is a CPA.
Okay.
So, which is another great resource that I have. She's 85, I think, right now. But she's still very...
Sharp? Wow.
Yeah. And so when I have a question, when I have to make an adjustment, or when I'm caught somewhere where I've been on an account for hours and I just can't think clearly anymore, I take a break and I just talk to her about it. And she's like, well, why don't you do it this way? Why don't you do it that way? So I definitely, you know, have learned a lot from my grandmother.
Yeah, you've got the elders. You know, reminds me of Shazam, you know, when he would go and like have the tribunal. I know, nerding out here, but like having those elders, right? It takes
important.
A village.
Yeah, definitely. It's very important. And like I said, I've learned a lot along the way because I reach out to my elders. Like even at work, like when I was doing, you know, light bookkeeping, I would talk to the accountant and how do you do this and how do you do that and how do you do this and how do you do that? How do you make the adjustment? Why do I make the adjustment? What do I put? You know, why do we do forecasting? You know, like how do you do forecasting in Excel? Like all these questions. And I find that if you approach the person with respect, they'll be willing to give you that knowledge and take you under their wing. And that's how I gained a lot of my knowledge.
That's great. Now, I want to also touch on something else for those listening that are like, wow, she did it. I'm going to do it. And I have a skill and I'm going to turn it into a business. It's not that easy. I introduced you to Bruce, Dr. Bruce Offerman, at a networking event. And before I turned around, he had become a client. Now, just because somebody introduces you to somebody doesn't automatically make them a client. Yes, I played a role in the introduction, but there was something that took place after that I don't know that every business owner has, that acumen. There's the relationship building. You closed the deal, right? I don't know what happened between you and Bruce, but the next time I saw Bruce, he was thankful. He was like, she's working for me. You know, I'm her client. You know, I stopped in and you were there. You're working on site. Maybe share a little bit about your strategies in relationship building or how you approach a client, what maybe some of the questions you ask them that help you realize that that you guys are a good fit for each other.
So the first thing that I do is I ask them if they have a bookkeeping service. That I'm very straight up and honest and straightforward. You know, I'm like, do you have a bookkeeping service? If they do, I'm like, well, here's my card anyway, just in case. And then I keep it moving. Because if they're not happy, they'll stop me.
Right.
So I just put it in their court. And if they're happy, but something happens in the future, they have my card.
Yeah. So you're not like the super aggressive. Like,
I'm not.
Yeah, like you're just like, hey, like
If
more
they,
low key.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm low
That's
key.
your approach.
Yeah. With the ones that say, no, I don't have a bookkeeper. I'm like, are you stressed? Are you overwhelmed?
Right.
How are you doing your bookkeeping? What software are you using? Are you comfortable? Do you know how to read your reports? When I start getting into all these questions, they start realizing, hey, I have some shortcomings. I actually do need someone. And a lot of them tell me, no, I actually need a bookkeeper. And I go in and I tell them, like, hey, you know, like, it may take me 2 minutes, what may take you 2 hours to do.
Right.
Time is money. You have to be cost effective and you have to have time management. And you need time to actually run your business, which is what you want to do, instead of focusing on the administrative tasks. Let me handle the money and give you peace of mind.
I like it. Now,
And by the money, I mean the transactions coming in and coming out. Because
how do you gain their trust? Because
so I don't.
they're showing you their numbers.
I can see their numbers, but I can't do anything. Like, even with a bank account, I tell them, don't give me full access, give me view-only access, which means I can't deposit money, I can't withdraw money, I can't transfer money, I can't do anything. Just give me view-only access to your account, and I'll do everything from there. I'll reconcile, I'll use the statements, I'll do whatever. I put it in their court. I was like, if you want to send me the statements every month, you can do that as well. I don't have any problem with that. Okay. It's more work for you. It's more work for me.
Meaning if they don't want to
give me access to their bank account.
Log in.
But, you know, it's completely however they feel comfortable, because I know that as the time goes by, they'll realize that I'm a trustworthy person and they'll give me access to that.
All right. Now, what's been the worst situation that you've seen? Like, somebody might be like embarrassed to show you, and then you look and you're like, what kind of a mess is this? Like, has there been a case where you've seen something that was just, you know,
I think
a nightmare of an accounting system?
So someone that came up to me presented it as like, oh, I just need 2 years of bookkeeping. It's all simple. And when I looked at the balance sheet,
meaning you needed to clean up 2 years worth.
I needed to clean up 2 years worth of bookkeeping, but they presented it like it was very simple. But when I looked at the balance sheet,
when they're like, it's just
well, no,
gonna be quick.
I have 2 other clients that need 5 years.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and those are the ones getting the letters from the IRS.
Oh, yeah.
But this particular client stands out because he tried to mask it.
Oh, boy.
And basically, at some point, someone combined 4 different loans into one account with different interest rates.
Yikes.
And I told him, I need your full payment history so that I can restructure these loans and do the interest and the payments.
He did his own debt consolidation on his own. So now you don't know how much principal you're paying because you don't know what the interest rate is. It's like...
And I told him, like, I need a history, like, and then when he called me, he was like, my balance sheet isn't done. And I'm like, you have not given me the information. You gave me the opening balances, handwritten on a piece of paper. Like, I need your full payment history for everything you've got for this company.
Yeah.
And the next day he removed my access. Oh. I'm like, so you're not willing to give me the paper? It's just paperwork that I need. It's very simple to do. You go in online, you get the payment history and give it to me. And it gives me the interest and the principal. Right. I take it from there. If you can't do that simplest thing, I see your business getting in trouble in 2 to 3 years.
Right. And you're like, look, guy, I'm trying to help you here.
Yeah. I'm just like, and I had spent like 10 hours adjusting some other loans and stuff. I just let it go. I'm like, I'm not even going to bill you. I'm not even going to bother with it because I I'm done. I'm done.
I'm tapping out.
Sometimes you need to have that moment where you fire a client and you're like, okay, we're done.
Yeah,
well, this isn't gonna end well. So
and he didn't even do it right. He removed my QuickBooks access, but I still have access to the bank account, and I'm still receiving the statement notifications.
Oh man.
Have people ever approached you to like, so we need the books to look like this?
True. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, I stay
It's
away
not worth
from
it.
criminal activity or even
Good.
because even if it was, I want your book, can you make the books look like this? And it's not a criminal activity. It's just like, I want to pay less taxes or whatever. I'm signing off on that.
Right.
The IRS is going to come and ask me questions. And they're going to be like, what? Why did you do this adjustment? Why did you do this that way? Like, I can't.
No, you're not gonna put your name on that.
It's my career
It
on the
is.
line.
Right. There's a lot at stake. We don't want to do that. But you did mention cash versus accrual, and let's just have a little educational moment and kind of tell our listeners that have small businesses what those terms mean.
Okay, so cash means that the transaction gets recorded once you receive the cash. Accrual means that the transaction gets recorded, like in terms of revenue, when the invoice is sent out. So when you look at your profit and loss and you're in accrual, you also have to be mindful to print out your accounts receivables to see who owes you money, because that money is already included in there. In cash, it's not. In cash, you receive it when it's there.
Right. And
But
that's a good point.
accrual is also the most accurate way of accounting.
And what do most small businesses do if they're a cash business?
To be honest, I changed them over to accrual once I set them up with QuickBooks. It is what it is.
And that works for like no matter the industry. Like if you're a bodega, does that work?
Yeah, accrual does work. Even if you're a bodega, because you have your receipts and you have your cash transactions coming in and coming out in your receipts.
You can go to your POS and like print out
Exactly.
what hit the box.
Exactly. But like, for example, if you're in accrual and you're bill paying, like, once you pay that bill and you're on automatic bill payment, that money has left like your account. So basically think of it as accrual would be your pending transactions in your bank account. So you have your available balance left, but it's not posted, so it's not the real balance. But it's the most accurate because you have those pending transactions out.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then think of cash as posted transactions only. So you're looking at your posted balance. So if you look at your posted balance, you're gonna be like, oh, I have this much money, but you're not counting on the pending transactions.
I'm trying to teach my oldest daughter that like this is all fake money. Like you can't just open up your banking app and like live off of, okay, this is how much I have. You have to look, hey, here are my pending transactions. Here's what I've put in. Like here's the transactions that are waiting to come out, so that way you can pay all of your
Yeah, and that harps on another topic, which is a lot of business owners that don't have bookkeepers, or even when they do have bookkeepers, the way that they look at how much money they have is they go into their bank account and check how much is available. And I'm like, that's the incorrect way of doing it. You got to look at your cash flow and your balance sheet, especially if you're going to make a large transaction like a loan or purchase a big piece of equipment, because you got to look at the liabilities that are going to be coming out at the end of the month.
Right.
And that the balance sheet tells you how much you have left over with including your liabilities.
That's when you start bouncing those rubber checks. Well, you overdraft.
Yes.
Because you make this purchase and then
it comes out more expensive.
True, with fees. I do. We're coming off of 4 years ago, right? We were in the pandemic, and there were a lot of programs that, and we don't know when the next pandemic's coming or the next crash or whatever. But I think there's something to be said about always being ready and not having to get ready. And I think a lot of our smaller businesses failed to take advantage of a lot of programs because they weren't set up properly. They didn't have the 941s and all of the forms to show what their income was,
the profit and loss, sheets.
Or if you ever are in a situation where like, okay, I've got to go seek financing because I want to buy a building or I have an opportunity to buy a piece of equipment, you need to show proof of income. And if you've been showing a loss in order to not pay taxes, now your business doesn't look as profitable, right? So what's some advice you would give that would encourage a small business owner to really button up their books?
Well, there are some programs out there. So every lender has its different qualifications. So you got to look at the lender that you want to work with. And I believe there's SCORE, there's the SBA,
CTSBDC.
Yeah, all of those can help you find a correct lender for your business. But you do have to have your profit and loss, your balance sheet, and your cash flow ready, no matter which lender you go with. Those are the three basic statements, because they want to know your revenue, they want to know your liabilities, and they want to know with all your expenses how much you have available to pay back that loan at the end of the day. So it's really important to have those three and be paid up on your taxes and have your latest income, your Schedule Cs or whatever, so that they're aware of where your company is at that time and what you can do. Some lenders will help you even if you've been reporting a loss, will help you so that you can expand and then start reporting a gain. Other lenders won't. Other lenders will only help you if you've been, stating revenue. So it all depends on what your situation is and what the lender is. But whatever the situation is, your reports and your books need to be in order.
Absolutely. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about how you're scaling your business. What was it like, hiring your first person, and what do you see in the future for your business? How big do you want to get? I want
to be a firm.
Okay.
So I'm starting to make connections with grant writers, so that I can offer those businesses. I also, like I said before,
so you can offer those services to businesses, like grant writing services.
And then, like I said before, I'm taking that business strategy class because I'm already see myself giving that advice to clients. So I want to be able to offer that as an official service, business strategy or business planning. And I want to grow. I want to offer as much as I can. If I can't offer it myself, I will look for a resource and make a deal and everything for my clients.
Excellent. Keep growing, never stop learning. And your clients are asking for these services, which I always think is the best way to scale and grow is listen to your audience, listen to your clients. What do they need, right, as you expand? Tell us a bit about what kind of clients are you looking for, or what's an ideal client for you, and then also how they can reach you.
Well, anyone in accounting will say that an ideal client would be high revenue and low transactions, which means the less transactions with more revenue.
So high ticket items.
Yeah. Medical practices, furniture.
Do you do credentialing? Since you mentioned medical, do you do like the processing? Is that another service where they go
the billing?
For insurance?
Yeah, billing and coding. No, I don't do billing and coding, but I thought about getting with a billing and coder, so that I can offer that. I do at Dr. Silverman's. I did learn how to do billing. Yes.
Credentialing
applying the insurance payments.
Yes.
So the billing part of it. But I do plan on teaming up with someone with that. But to be honest, any client that wants my services, I will take them in. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say I have a preferred client. I mean, do I have one? Yes. High revenue, low transaction rate. Is that always the thing? Is that in every industry? Right. No, it's not. That's more like in, contracting, medical practices, things like that. But I'm not going to turn you away because you're not a part of that industry.
Is there a sweet spot size businesses? Is it small, mid-size, large?
So I work from small to mid-size.
Okay.
Small
and that
to
could be
mid-size.
Revenue of like 5 to 10 million or under 5 million, or what would you consider small?
Small could be anywhere from the hundreds of thousands to a few million. Mm-hmm. I think 10 million would be a little high because at that point you would need, enterprise and things like that. And I would need to come into the office to work for you and things like that. So small to medium in the low millions.
Okay. Not those junk accounts, Kev.
No, junk accounts.
Here's the final. How can somebody sign up for your services? What's your preferred method of contact? Share your handles. Are you on social? Are you a big social media person?
I am not a big social media person. I don't even know my social handles, to be honest. We got some work to do here, Mr. Peralta.
I know places that can help. Yeah.
But just email me or call me, 203-360-0445. Again, that number is 203-360-0445. You can email me at vixen.books@gmail.com. That's VICCEN.BOOKS@gmail.com. And if you want to hit me up on Instagram or Facebook, you can. It's anything under VICCEN.BKS or /_BKS. I think I'm as Vicar Centeno on LinkedIn. I think that's it. I'm not sure. Yeah, just find me.
I don't know where you are, but I'll find you. Yeah, no, that's great. We love all the advice you gave. This is such an important area for small businesses to be able to kind of continue to grow and scale, and one that's often, unfortunately, neglected.
Yes, it is.
So we appreciate you being on the show. And if you had one piece of advice to give our small businesses, what would it be?
QuickBooks is not as easy as it looks. Don't mix your personal and your business expenses. And keep your transactions categorized. Excellent advice. Well, thank you, Vicar, for being on Mission Control. Thank you. Have a great day, guys. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mission Control. Until next time, this is your host, Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch brands.